Hey there, deep divers. Have you ever felt like you're juggling a million things at once? Work, finances, those personal projects, maybe even like some really ambitious learning goals. It's enough to make anyone's head spin.
Right.
So today, we're diving into a system that promises to bring like order to all that chaos.
Yeah.
It's a unique daily organizer that's really caught our attention.
You know what's really intriguing about this organizer is that it doesn't shy away from the complexity of our lives. Like it acknowledges that we're not just workers or students or even just individuals. We're kind of this blend of all these roles, and each one demands our attention.
It really
I
does.
know.
And it's not just about having like separate to-do lists for each role, right?
Right.
This organizer goes deeper. It's almost like a philosophy of how to approach life in a more holistic way. And it all starts with, wait for it, taxes.
That's the first thing that raised my eyebrows, too. But the more I think about it, the more I see the genius in it. Starting with something we tend to dread, like taxes and IRS exemptions, could be a way to, like, clear the mental decks for the day. It's like getting the heavy lifting out of the way first, so you can then focus on the things that truly inspire you.
Yeah, it's like ripping off a Band-Aid, right?
Exactly.
And from there, it moves on to the PhD section, which, don't worry, it's not just for academics.
Right.
It's really designed for any major learning goal or ambitious project you're tackling.
Exactly. Think of it as a dedicated space to really track your progress, reflect on your challenges, and really dive deep into the nitty-gritty of whatever it is you're learning. It even prompts you to think about potential roadblocks and how you might overcome them, almost like having a personal research advisor built right in.
I'm already starting to see how this organizer encourages a different mindset, one that's both proactive and reflective. And it doesn't stop there. After taxes in the PhD section, it moves on to finances, work, personal projects, and then personal organization,
Wow.
hitting all those key areas of life.
What's fascinating is how it maintains a consistent structure throughout each section. You have your action items today, those bite-sized tasks to kind of keep you moving forward,
Yeah.
important dates so nothing slips through the cracks, and then my personal favorite, the notes section.
Yes. Tell me you don't love a good notes section. It's like a blank canvas for brainstorming, capturing those aha moments, or even just venting your frustrations.
It's that space for unfiltered thinking, that I find so valuable. It reminds us that planning isn't just about ticking boxes. It's about engaging with the process, the ups, the downs, and everything in between.
Right. Okay, so we've got these core areas of life covered, but then it takes a turn that I wasn't expecting. The final section is dedicated to health, spirituality, and well-being. Not exactly what you'd find in your typical daily planner.
And that's what makes this organizer so unique. It recognizes that our well-being is really the foundation for everything else. It's not just about getting things done, It's about creating a life that feels balanced and fulfilling.
Right. It's like it's saying, hey, it doesn't matter how organized your finances are or how productive you are at work if you're running on fumes. So tell me more about this health, spirituality, and well-being section. What kind of prompts does it include?
Well, it starts with the basics. It encourages you to track your exercise, your sleep, your hydration, all those foundational elements of physical health. It's easy to let those things slide when we're busy, but having those visual reminders can make a big difference.
Yeah, it's like having a little wellness coach in your pocket, just kind of nudging you to take care of yourself. And I imagine that's especially valuable in today's fast-paced world, where it's so easy to get caught up in the hustle.
Exactly. And it goes beyond just the physical health, it delves into spirituality, encouraging you to find those practices that help you connect with something larger than yourself. It could be meditation, prayer, spending time in nature, whatever resonates with you.
Yeah, that's something I've been wanting to explore more, but I always struggle to find the time. I love the idea of incorporating it into my daily routine in a more intentional way.
And that's what's so brilliant about this organizer. It makes these practices accessible and integrates them into the fabric of your day. It's not about adding more to your plate. It's about shifting your perspective and creating a more mindful approach to life.
This is where I have to push back a bit. I'm all for mindfulness and self-care, but putting taxes and spirituality in the same planner,
Oh, yeah.
it seems almost contradictory.
I see where you're coming from. It's definitely an unconventional approach, but maybe that's the point. Perhaps by acknowledging the full spectrum of our lives, from the mundane to the spiritual, we can actually find a greater sense of balance and purpose.
Okay, I'm willing to keep an open mind. So we've got taxes, ambitious projects, finances, work, personal organization, and even spirituality all covered in this daily organizer. It's like it's trying to encompass every aspect of our being.
And that's the beauty of it. It's not just a productivity tool, it's a blueprint for intentional living. It encourages you to step back and ask yourself, what do I truly value? What kind of life do I want to create?
Right. It's like it's prompting you to design your own personal roadmap for success and fulfillment. Now, I know our listeners are probably thinking, okay, this all sounds great, but how does it actually work in practice?
Well, let's dive into some of the specifics. Each section within the organizer has a consistent structure that makes it super easy to use.
Okay, so let's take the projects section, for example. It has a breakdown for each project you're working on, including current projects, tasks today, deadline goals, and of course, those ever important notes. It's like a mini project management system all in one place.
Exactly. And the consistent use of deadlines and goals helps to maintain accountability and ensure you're steadily, moving towards completion. This can be especially helpful for those of us who tend to get bogged down in the details and lose sight of the bigger picture.
Again, those notes, I can see myself jotting down, all those brilliant ideas that pop up while I'm working on a project, or even just using it as a space to vent my frustrations when things aren't going as planned.
It's about capturing those fleeting thoughts and insights before they kind of disappear. And it can also serve as a valuable tool for reflection. By looking back at your notes, you can gain a better understanding of your creative process, identify patterns in your thinking, and even pinpoint areas where you might need to make adjustments.
Yeah, it's like having a personal journal for each project, which can be incredibly helpful for tracking your progress and identifying areas for improvement.
Precisely.
Okay.
And speaking of improvement, let's move on to the personal organization section. This section encourages a very proactive approach to managing your time, your space, and your energy.
Yeah, it's easy to let things pile up in our personal lives. From cluttered desks to overflowing inboxes.
Mhm.
How does this organizer help us tackle that?
Well, this section prompts you to take stock of your physical and your digital spaces. It encourages you to create systems for managing your time, prioritizing tasks, and decluttering your environment. It's about creating a sense of order and control, which can have a profound impact on your overall well-being.
Okay, so it's not just about like tidying up. It's about creating a space that supports productivity, AD peace of mind.
Exactly. By creating a sense of order and control in your personal life, you kind of free up that mental energy and focus to tackle those bigger goals and aspirations.
So we've covered 5 of the 7 sections. Taxes and IRS exemptions, PhD or major projects, finances, work and related goals, projects, and personal organization.
Which brings us to the last two: health, spirituality, and well-being. Ready to dive in?
Absolutely. This is where things get really interesting. Okay, listeners, imagine this. You're starting your day by reviewing upcoming tax deadlines, and then you immediately pivot to your current meditation practice.
Whoa.
It's a blend of the practical and the profound that I wouldn't have thought possible.
That's the beauty of this organizer. It embraces the entirety of our human experience. It recognizes that we're not just cogs in a machine, but complex beings with physical, emotional, and spiritual needs.
All right, let's break down this health, spirituality, and well-being section. It's divided into health, spirituality, well-being, progress, and you guessed it, notes. Where should we begin?
Let's start with health. One of the first things that struck me about this section is the emphasis on tracking. It encourages you to track your exercise, your food intake, your hydration, your sleep, all those foundational elements of physical health.
It's like having a personal wellness coach, like right there in your planner, gently reminding you to stay hydrated and get those steps in.
Right.
It's easy to let those things slip, but having those visual reminders can make all the difference. What else stands out to you about this section?
The spirituality section is particularly interesting. I was intrigued by how it encourages, carving out time for meditation, prayer, reflection, or any spiritual practices that resonate with you.
I agree. It's a powerful reminder that nurturing your inner self is just as important as any external achievement. What are your thoughts on that?
In a world that often prioritizes external achievements, this section is a powerful reminder to cultivate inner peace and connect with something larger than ourselves. Whether it's through meditation, prayer, or spending time in nature, these practices can be incredibly grounding and enriching.
And even if you're not particularly religious or spiritual, I think this section can still be incredibly valuable. It's really about finding those practices that help you center yourself, find clarity and tap into a sense of purpose.
Exactly. It's about finding what works for you and making it part of your daily routine.
Yeah.
And that's where the well-being section comes in.
Right. It encourages you to take moments for self-care and relaxation, set intentions for mental clarity, and actively manage stress. It's like a permission slip to prioritize your own well-being, which I think we all need sometimes. What are your thoughts on that?
In a culture that often glorifies busyness and productivity, taking time for self-care can feel almost revolutionary. But this organizer recognizes that self-care is not a luxury. It's an essential ingredient for sustainable success and happiness.
Absolutely. It's about finding that balance between, striving for our goals and nurturing our well-being. And I love how the progress section encourages us to reflect on those subtle shifts and positive changes we might be experiencing. It's a great way to stay motivated and celebrate those, non-scale victories.
It's about recognizing that progress isn't always linear. There will be ups and downs, but by tracking our progress, we can gain valuable insights into what's working, what's not, and adjust our approach accordingly. And of course, we can't forget about the notes section.
Always a favorite. What kind of notes do you envision jotting down in the health, spirituality, and well-being section?
This could be a space for tracking your energy levels throughout the day, noting any emotional patterns you observe, or even just brainstorming new self-care activities you want to try.
I love that. It's like a personal laboratory for experimenting with different wellness practices and discovering what truly nourishes your mind, your body, and your spirit.
Precisely. And by tracking those observations and insights, you can create a personalized well-being toolkit that kind of evolves with you over time.
Before we wrap up our exploration of the sections, I have one last question about the placement of taxes and IRS exemptions right at the top of this daily organizer. I have to admit, it still strikes me as an unusual starting point.
You're right. It's not your typical way to kind of begin your day, but maybe, just maybe, there's a method to this unconventional madness.
So you're thinking that tackling those less than thrilling tasks first thing in the morning frees up mental space for the rest of the day?
Exactly. It's like ripping off a Band-Aid, Get it over with and move on to the more inspiring stuff.
And it highlights the organizer's emphasis on holistic planning, right?
Right.
It acknowledges that even the less glamorous aspects of life, like taxes, need to be addressed if we want to achieve true well-being and success.
It's about taking a comprehensive view of your life and creating a plan that addresses all of your needs and responsibilities.
Okay, I have to say, this is making me rethink my whole approach to planning. So far, we've explored the 7 sections of the organizer, but there's one final element we haven't touched on yet, the daily reflection section.
Ah, yes. The grand finale, where we pause to reflect on the day's journey and glean those valuable insights.
So it's not just about checking things off the list, it's about using those experiences to learn, grow, and continuously improve.
Exactly. The reflection questions, what went well today? What challenges did you face? How can you improve tomorrow? They prompt you to analyze your day from multiple angles.
It's like having a built-in feedback loop, allowing you to make adjustments and course correct as you go. I love that. It turns this organizer from a static tool into a dynamic process of self-discovery and growth.
And it encourages a mindset of continuous improvement. It's not about striving for perfection, but rather about embracing the journey and learning from our experiences along the way.
That's a perfect note to end on, but before we move on to listener questions in the next part of our deep dive, I want to hear what our listeners are thinking.
Absolutely. We want to hear what resonates with you, what surprised you, what sparked your curiosity. Let's keep the conversation going.
Welcome back, Deep Divers. We've laid out the framework of this intriguing daily organizer, and now it's time to address your questions.
Yeah, you guys always bring the insightful queries, and today is no different.
So true.
I'm particularly excited about this first question from Sarah in Seattle. She writes, "This organizer seems amazing, but I'm already a devoted bullet journaler and a digital task manager fanatic. How can I incorporate this without creating a system overload?"
Great question. Sarah, you bring up a point that I'm sure many listeners can relate to. We're bombarded with productivity systems these days, and it's easy to feel overwhelmed. But I think the beauty of this organizer is that it's not about abandoning what's working for you. It's about cherry-picking the elements that resonate and kind of weaving them into your existing setup. Yeah, so instead of thinking replace, we're thinking enhance. Like if your bullet journal is your creative haven, maybe you adapt the health, spirituality, and well-being section into like a visually stunning spread.
Yeah.
Track your meditation minutes with beautiful calligraphy, or create a mood tracker that's, a work of art.
Yeah, I love that. And for our digital wizards like Sarah, who love their task managers, think about custom tags or categories. You could even mirror the organizer's core sections, so when you're really laser focused on your PhD work, you can filter your tasks accordingly and minimize distractions.
I love that. It's about creating a personalized system that feels intuitive and joyful, not another chore on the to-do list.
Right.
Speaking of to-do lists, our next question comes from Michael in Miami, who asks, I'm a freelancer working from home, so the traditional 9 to 5 structure doesn't really apply to me. How can this organizer work with my kind of flexible schedule?
That's a great question. Michael, your question highlights the adaptability of this organizer, right? It's a framework, not a straitjacket. Instead of work and related goals, which might feel too rigid, maybe try client projects or business development, whatever captures the essence of your like freelance flow.
Right. The key is to really honor the natural rhythms of your work style, right? Maybe you thrive on batching tasks, dedicating certain days to creative work and others to admin. Or perhaps you're a master of microsprints, tackling focused bursts of work throughout the day. This organizer can accommodate that.
Totally. And let's not forget the importance of boundaries, even when your office is your living room. That personal organization section can help you create clear delineations between work time and personal time, ensuring you're not, always on.
Right. So crucial for preventing burnout and maintaining a sense of balance, especially when work and life are like constantly intertwined. Now, our final question for this segment takes us on a more introspective journey. Maria from Madrid writes, I love the idea of incorporating more spirituality into my life, but I'm not sure where to begin. Any advice?
Oh, that's such a great question, Maria. And, it's a reminder that even though this organizer seems comprehensive, it's still just a starting point. Spirituality is a deeply personal journey, and it's beautiful that you're taking those first steps.
Totally. One of the things that struck me about the spirituality section is how it really encourages experimentation. It doesn't prescribe like a specific dogma or practice. It's about exploring what resonates with you. Maybe you dip your toes into meditation with a 5-minute guided session. Or perhaps you create a gratitude ritual, taking a moment each evening to appreciate, the simple joys in your life.
And don't underestimate the power of those small, consistent actions. Over time, they can have a profound impact on your sense of well-being and, connection to something greater than yourself.
And those notes are there to capture any insights or breakthroughs that emerge along the way. It's like a personal dialogue with your evolving spiritual self.
It is. It's beautifully put. So we've seen how this organizer can be adapted for different lifestyles, work styles, and even spiritual journeys. It's about taking the framework and making it your own.
Absolutely. And before we move on, I want to address something that might be on our listeners' minds. We've talked a lot about the organizer's emphasis on holistic living, but what does that actually mean?
That's a great question. And it's a concept that's often, thrown around without much depth. In the context of this organizer, I think holistic means recognizing the interconnectedness of our lives.
Right. So it's not about compartmentalizing work self, home self, spiritual self. It's about acknowledging that they all influence each other.
Yeah, like your financial well-being can impact your mental health. Your spiritual practices can influence your relationships. It's all, woven together. This organizer helps us see those connections and create a plan that nourishes every aspect of our being.
And it's not about achieving some unattainable ideal of perfect balance, right? Life is messy, things happen, and that's okay.
Exactly. What this organizer encourages is a mindset shift. It's about recognizing that even small steps towards a more holistic life can have a ripple effect, creating positive change that extends, far beyond the pages of the planner itself.
Now, are you ready to tackle a few more listener questions? I know we've got some curious minds out there eager to dive deeper into the nitty-gritty.
Absolutely. Bring them on.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We've really dissected the structure of this intriguing daily organizer, fielded your insightful questions, and explored, the concept of holistic living. But now I want to shift gears and talk about something that's been swirling in my mind throughout this entire deep dive.
Ooh, intrigued. Lay it on me. What's captured your attention?
Well, it's the undercurrent of intentionality that runs through this entire organizer. It's not just about managing your time or checking things off a list. It's about making those conscious choices that align with your values and goals.
You've hit the nail on the head. It's a subtle but powerful shift. Instead of simply reacting to the demands of the day, This organizer empowers you to proactively design a life that feels authentic and fulfilling.
Yeah. It's like you're the architect of your own life, and this organizer provides the blueprints and the tools to bring your vision to reality. But it's not a rigid, one-size-fits-all plan, right? It's a
Mhm.
framework that invites you to personalize it, to make it your own.
Exactly. And that's where the magic happens. The real power of this organizer lies not in its structure, but in the way it prompts you to engage with your own life in a more conscious and deliberate way.
It's like it's saying, hey, don't just go through the motions. Stop, reflect, and ask yourself, what do I truly want? What kind of life do I want to create?
Those are powerful questions, and the organizer provides a framework for really exploring them. From the PhD section, which encourages you to, delve deep into your learning goals, to the health, spirituality, and well-being section, which prompts you to prioritize your inner well-being, it's all about aligning your actions with your aspirations.
And it's not about achieving some like unattainable ideal of perfection,
Yeah.
right? It's about progress, not perfection. It's about making small, consistent steps each day towards the life you want to create.
And celebrating those wins along the way. It's
Mhm.
so easy to get caught up in the, what's next mentality, but this organizer reminds us to pause and appreciate how far we've come. That progress section is a brilliant tool for acknowledging those subtle shifts and positive changes that might otherwise go unnoticed.
It's about cultivating a sense of gratitude for the journey, even when, things get messy or challenging. Because let's face it, life is rarely a perfectly paved road. There will be detours, roadblocks, and unexpected turns.
And that's where the daily reflection section becomes invaluable. It's not just about checking things off a list. It's about using those experiences, both the triumphs and indeed the setbacks, as opportunities for growth.
Those reflection questions are so simple, yet so profound. What went well today? What challenges did you face? How can you improve tomorrow? They invite you to step back and analyze your day from a place of curiosity rather than judgment.
It's like having a built-in coach, guiding you towards greater self-awareness and continuous improvement. And it's not just about identifying what needs to change. It's also about celebrating your wins, acknowledging your efforts, and cultivating a sense of gratitude for all that is good in your life.
It's about shifting your perspective from a place of scarcity to a place of abundance. And that's what I find so inspiring about this organizer. It's not just about managing your time, it's about designing a life that feels truly fulfilling.
Precisely. It's about creating a life that reflects your values, nourishes your soul, and allows you to make a meaningful contribution to the world.
So, as we wrap up our deep dive into this incredible daily organizer, I want to encourage you, our listeners, to view this not just as a system for getting things done, but as a framework for living a more intentional and meaningful life.
Yeah, take what resonates with you, adapt it to your unique needs, and experiment with different approaches. There's no right or wrong way to use this organizer. The only wrong way is to let it sit on your shelf gathering dust.
So grab a pen, open up your journal, or fire up your favorite productivity app and start designing your own blueprint for success and well-being.
And remember, this journey isn't a solo mission. Share your experiences, your insights, and your questions with us. Let's create a community of intentionality, supporting each other as we navigate the complexities of life and strive to create a world where well-being and fulfillment are not just aspirations, but a lived reality.
Until next time, deep divers, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep living with intention.